today is evidencing the birthing of the new suns, how Genesis does relate to coming around full circle to the events of Revelation and how they are all interlinked. The comic anagram cosmic character of Colossus is representing Saturn, as you'll see here encoded in the name Rasputin. What you also notice is the word pi also encoded in there. His first name is Piotr, word for Tor, as in Taurus field, the building blocks of worlds, and also pi again. So just to confirm that. And then of course you see the X and the red and black color code, and he also has an X within the circle on his belt, if you actually examine that video clip. Now that we've determined that the X represents Saturn, now you'll know what this console represents. The black cube of Saturn, the Xbox. The apparent founder of Microsoft that created this Xbox is William Gates. And there you have the code, the will of I am at the gates. I decoded that Colossus is Saturn. Now that we know, we can decode this message here. Now this message is placed on a plaque at the foot of the Statue of Liberty, and it all relates to the new Colossus representing Saturn being ignited as a new sun. To one of the key pieces of evidence that we supplied in Biggest Secrets of the Age, where we showed one of Pink's Grammy Awards performances in 2010, titled Glitter in the Air. And this was all about a celestial convergence tying to Revelation 12 of the child being raised to God's throne. And that is a code for saying the ascension of the new sun. And I'm going to show you that it is not Jupiter, it is actually Saturn that is being raised in this ritual, even though Jupiter does get ignited as well. For complete accuracy, I will apply this correction, and this ritual was a birthing of the sun. It's just that in this case, it is Saturn. That is going to be evidenced. So just to give a quick run through again, that's the water breaking. And then you'll see the orange color code to signify the birthing and transformation of Saturn into a sun. And there it is. And you're going to notice, well, for one, that's the Yah symbol for Saturn. The first individual they honed in on, the first star that they centered upon was Ringo Star. Ringo Star. The rings of Saturn. This is how they reveal information for those with the eyes to see. I'm glad I can correct that now. And there is also another code in there in the next people they focus on, which is Rihanna, a archetype here of an LL Cool J. And I've got new information there. I know now that LL Cool J refers to El Elyon Cool J, and El Elyon is Saturn. And the names give away the codes often. Well, they're very good indicators. So his real name is James Todd Smith, and I already decoded that James is a code for Saturn. That's why you have the King James Bible, because it is the rulerships of Saturn that assembled it. It is Saturn's cube, it is Saturn's game here. All right, so Smith is also a code for smite, because Yahweh as he is regularly referred to, was the smiter of the Old Testament. And his nicknames, yeah, there's clues in the nicknames too. Now you know Jack is a code for Saturn, and the goat, of course. So now you know LL Cool J is a representative archetype of Saturn in that ritual video. It is written here as being the imprisoned lightning. And that is because Saturn was a thief and being exiled as a result. And he is, in a sense, imprisoned and alone. And Saturn is represented by the lightning symbol, as is Jupiter, as is the destroyer star, just so you know how tricky it can be to interpret these codes sometimes, because a lot of them do share the same symbology. For example, 2 Red Bulls. So in regards to Saturn being the imprisoned lightning, the film Cape Fear also reveals that. And he's coming back for vengeance. And he comes with a sword, and you'll see the symbology here of lightning on his chest. And he represents himself as a lawyer, as is his opponent in this film. The imprisoned lightning and the flame as Saturn relates to this song by Cheap Trick, where the lyrics state, remember after the fire, after all the rain, I will be the flame. And this is Saturn speaking to his lover, Alcyone of the Pleiades. So that relates to movements of Saturn and conjunctions with Alcyone of the Pleiades star system, and which in turn will lead to another conjunction with the Sirius star that will see through to the end of the age, where there are a series of convergences will take place. Pleiades star system, referred to as the Seven Sisters, and that name is actually going to be clue with actual evidence in connection to the Statue of Liberty. So my attention now on the Pleiades system, and specifically Alcyone, the main body of the Pleiades. In re-examining the Statue of Liberty, we're going to see a crown with 7 points, and that is because it is the crown of the Pleiades system. And I'm going to further confirm this, that the Statue of Liberty is representing the Pleiades body. That figure does carry the torch. It is a light bearer. And that is the true Latin definition of Lucifer, is the light bearer. And that's exactly what the Statue of Liberty is representing. So let's have a look now at a scripture verse. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Keep that scripture in mind. Another translation. And it says here, canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? So keep this keyword, sweet influences, in mind, because this is going to clue in to a lot of the codes that are presented. See there? That's the chains attached to the feet of the Pleiades. So can you bind the chains of the Pleiades or loose the cords of Orion? So this is where the Pleiades are unleashed. And that would make sense, because when they move, that is going to result in the birthing of the new suns with the celestial convergences that occur. So the next one is, can you fasten the chains of the Pleiades? Which is interesting, because when we go to Lucy, you're going to actually see the fasting of the chains, because I've discovered now that Lucy is actually representing Alcyone, that star of the Pleiades system. So have a look.
Richard, I gotta go. How do you do? I'm sorry. How do you? I'm so sorry.
Okay, and you also know as well, because this figure is representing Saturn, so you'll know now that Richard is a code name for Saturn. And you also see he's in a crucifixion pose because Saturn does get crucified, where the crucifixions were an allegorical account. And you'll see here as well on his t-shirt, it's a crucifix, undeniable. So this is a celestial crucifixion that we're dealing with. Let's have a look at the lettering and the spelling of Alcyone. Straight away when I saw this word, I saw numerous codes. The first being Al, which is interesting because Saturn is associated with L and Al, and there you have also the 1 code as well. So when you hear Dua Lipa's track, the 1, and she's actually playing an archetype of Alcyone. And you often see these girls, the 7 sisters of Pleiades, they're often like bad girls and they're wearing black and they're dressed provocatively and sexy and alluring. And I'm going to run those codes as evidence in this presentation. Chains of Pleiades is what this Statue of Liberty is representing in a union with Saturn, as I just showed and has been decoded now. The film Dude, Where's My Car? And this is how the elites reveal their codes. It's usually in the most places you would likely least expect. And you're going to see the 7 sisters be introduced. They're not going to have exactly 7 because that would be too obvious.
I don't know why. If you are Jesse and Chester, perhaps we will give you erotic pleasure. That's us right here.
They're being seductive and alluring, those sweet influences of the Pleiades. If you look at the music video for Nice for What by Drake, you'll see this is a heavily coded track revealing celestial secrets and of the convergence of the event horizon, and it's quite overt. But a key lyric here is "Haven't let that thing loose, girl, in so long." That's a code for the Pleiades when you compare it to the scripture of Job. So he says here, in reference to Alcyone had a man last year, life goes on. And what that's really saying is that there was another king on the throne last age, and life goes on through the cycles. And it's a short life, yeah, because this music video is all about revealing bodies that are going to be involved at the end of the age. Now, this was another quite controversial track when it came out from Ariana Grande, God is a Woman, and she is also an archetype of Alcyone of the Pleiades, not Sirius. And you'll see her here in the black, and she's also, you'll see here, it's a diamond shape. Now you know what Lucy in the sky with diamonds is all about. And I've shown in previous videos evidence that it does rain diamonds on Jupiter and Saturn. Just going to show the evidence and make a correction, which is vital, but you'll be glad that I did, because this to give birth to a son, and that sun being Saturn ignited. Now, Alcyone is often referred to as the central sun of the Milky Way galaxy. So this is a giveaway here of that. I'm going to go to the pivotal scene. Saturn is the judge. She's actually converged with Saturn at this point. Saturn is at her womb. She's holding the hammer of judgment connected to Saturn. And watch what happens next.
Vengeance and furious anger, those who attempt to poison and destroy my sisters.
Now you know as well that she's referring to the sisters of the Pleiades.
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon you.
And you see now Once Saturn's hammer came through the dimensional veil, this now is representing Saturn ignited as a sun and is being birthed from the womb of the prostitute. So there she becomes the whore of Babylon. That is an amendment, but it has to be done, and there is no way in good conscience that I could let that go in discovering corrections where they need to be corrected. So you'll see here that the bodies of the Pleiades actually become a man-eater. And that takes us to this track by Daryl Hall and John Oates, titled Man-Eater, which if you watch this music video, again, it's the same themes, the same celestial coded themes. So for these videos, I do encourage people to examine them as seekers if you're interested, and more will be revealed. That can plant some seeds and set you on your own path of research. I just want to be a way shower. I don't want to make claims that I'm holding all the truth, because I don't, and nobody does. But I'm doing the best that I can, and with new information coming in. Dua Lipa, now if you examine this clip, you'll realize now that she's actually a archetype of Alcyone. And the song title is Hotter Than Hell, because the Pleiades cluster is known as being hot bodies. And here we have Beauty and the Beast, which is another coded film amongst many. And the Beast is Saturn. And Bel, it is a convergence of Saturn with Alcyone that actually births him into his sun. So we know now that this female archetype here is representing Alcyone. The term Holy Spirit has been used to hide the identity of the mother creation aspect that the Hopi do recognize, and many other religious systems, but the Romans have obscured it. I'm going to supply the numerology in the Chaldean calculator. So let's have a look at the numerology for Alcyone. 25, and you add them up. 2 plus 5 is 7. When you add in the Sirius word code, it adds up to the same. 16. 1 plus 6 is 7. So this is another reason why I feel that they are a mirror image of one another. So I just wanted to introduce that all and to make amends. This is the mystery revealed. It's relevant with the Lionsgate portal, because the Lionsgate portal, if you do further research on that, you'll learn that it's an alignment of Sirius with Alcyone. So they actually are connected. And that's why the Lionsgate is significant. And that's why it has been mentioned regarding this end times revealings of numerous convergences and conjunctions, as mentioned by the Hidden Hand many, many years ago. And that was a fair warning by the elites. That was not fiction, in amongst some of the teachings there that were not accurate. There is a law of confusion applied with all these films. It needs to be said. This is a work of analyzing data. And although I have not gotten 100% accuracy, I will say that my accuracy has been over 90%. And considering how difficult this task is, I would say that is pretty good. But again, even with all my words and statements, I want everyone to apply their own discernment. I want them to do their own research. I'm just seeing myself as a messenger and a way shower. I'm here to plant the seeds, but I do not want to dictate and say that everything I say is 100% truth, because nobody here in the flesh is providing 100% truth. Nobody. Now here we have Travis Bickle. Now in the last segment, I mentioned how Travis Bickle, wearing the green here, is a archetype of Saturn, commonly referred to as Yahweh. And Yahweh is a jealous God, is he not? Well, what is the color of envy? it is green. So often you will see part of the color codes being green. And this is why you also have the Incredible Hulk being a Saturn archetype in green. Now, it's very important that we notice here this gorilla patch, and you'll also notice here on the patch, I'll just enlarge it, it says King Kong Company. Pi comes from the Greek word, which is the 16th letter of the alphabet. You break that down in numerology, so 1 plus 6 is 7. That also coincides with this archetype here of Saturn in the same color codes, red, black, and white, which is one of the color codes for Saturn. Here we have the archetype playing Jupiter, and you'll see here, if you examine this clip, he is wearing a gold necklace. That is to show Jupiter being ignited as a sun. And you also see they insert little clues here that we're dealing with star bodies. You see here the little star insignia on this vehicle. And Saturn being ignited into a sun is representative of the end of the Saturn cube. So Saturn is going to be transformed and the cube is going to be broken. The Hall of Mirrors is going to be broken. And you'll also see that here in the film Enter the Dragon, Saturn's cube, and you'll see colors of the literal cosmic body of Saturn. And the Hall of Mirrors does represent the many dimensions within time and how those dimensional layers are going to be broken and the whole galaxy is going to be transformed with coming celestial convergences, leading to the birthing of the new suns. This is how the game operates. They put these potent codes in the most unlikely places. And you're going to see here that Lloyd, and there you go, that's the LL code, the Alcyone code, because Lloyd is representing Saturn in his art. And you'll see here, there you go, 7 sisters, celestial, and Little Wayne also appearing. And actually, in bringing up Little Wayne, I just want to mention a track, Drop the World, and I included that in a comment, but some of the other viewers might not have caught that. So I'll just mention now that Drop the World, Little Wayne is playing the archetype of the Destroyer Star, and Eminem is playing the archetype of Saturn in his voice. Though artistic license, has to be known that artistic license is still taken, but the codes are there. And it also reveals the Incredible Hulk as Saturn as well. And this is another track where Lloyd is presenting himself as an archetype of Saturn, merging with Alcyone, again in the black, and they're in the sky because that's the code, is that they are representing celestial bodies. In the film Point Break, which is another coded film, where you have Pater Swayze playing Saturn, Keanu Reeves is playing the cop here, Jupiter, that takes him down. Now, it's important to mention that when talking about the war in heavens, we see codes in these films where Saturn and Jupiter compete against each other and battle against each other, but yet they are also aligned as well. So you have them battling against each other, so their body's going to collide with each other, as well as colliding with the Destroyer Star, commonly referred to as Planet X, Red Dragon Star. And those two combined are going to nullify the influence of that star and be the saviors, in the sense that the world will not be completely obliterated as a result. And there you see as well the bat wings. So just to confirm the link between Saturn and Batman. This poster here, A Fire Will Rise, is a code for Saturn being ignited into a sun.
Okay guys, so I've shown evidence that the birthing of Saturn occurs through the convergences with Alcyone, and I'm going to provide further evidence of that with these reveals that are included in the media. And this is how the game works here, is that they do reveal celestial secrets and mysteries through media. The elites treat this as a game, and it is given there as a window of opportunity for those with the eyes to see and for those who are hungry for the truth to actually go out and seek it. And I've been knocking on the door a long time. I've made some errors. I've been overall correct. I have been knocking on the door for a long time and very laboriously, and the fruit has come. So I'm really happy that I can finally tie this all in for you guys. It's been pretty arduous the way that these codes are supplied. It can be really painstaking process sifting through these codes, because they certainly do apply a law of confusion, and I've been caught out by it. I do apologize for that, but I have made amends and it's finally been unraveled. So a clip here from the series Teen Wolf. Now, this character, her name is Alison. That's a code for Alcyone. And again, you often can determine what celestial bodies are being represented by the names, the names of the actors who are representing the stars. Sometimes they do switcheroos even with those codes. It's not always guaranteed, but it's often an indicator of what the stars are playing. So you'll see here a celestial battle taking place. I'll just play it. Now she's going to strike at a Saturnian body. This is a celestial war with Alcyone versus Saturn. And you'll see Saturn ignited, sun. And then in that same clip, she's shown dying, which basically is symbolic for Alcyone transforming. And I'm going to show further evidence of this celestial war, and the main bodies in the evidence that I'm going to show involves Jupiter, Saturn, and Alcyone. Even though these convergences do involve all the celestial bodies ultimately, but where the evidence has been shown is to evidence the ignition of the new suns during these celestial convergences / crucifixions. Information has also led to realize that Saturn is the archangel Sammael. So even though I've seen the codes indicate that he is Archangel Michael, the interesting thing about that correlation is they both actually have similar roles. They are both carriers of dead souls, and they are both angels of the dead. So there are correlations between their roles. Ultimately, though, they are both God's servants. So one being the adversary, because Sammael, Satan, if you look at the word Satan, Satan means adversary. So he is the tester. He is the one who is the discipliner, the punisher. He puts people under trial, and he is also an angel that is permitted to bring his wrath upon the earth and its inhabitants. So this has been decreed and allowed by the higher powers monitoring in this game. So that has to be taken into consideration. And you also see that in the film The Devil's Advocate, where Al Pacino, and the name Al being a Saturn code name, then you'll know that yes, Saturn is the adversary. However, Saturn, the adversary, does engage in battle against the Red Dragon Destroyer Star. And that's why this can get confusing, because as the song Regulate with Warren G and Nate Dogg, Warren G being Saturn, Nate Dogg being Jupiter, they're both going up against the red dragon star, defending their property, because this is coded as being Saturn and Jupiter's property, because they are part of the original Trinity, and the original Trinity being Alcyone, Saturn, and Jupiter. And I have provided information that correlates that via the Hopi knowledge of the celestial knowledge, where they do acknowledge the mother aspect in creation and didn't hide it like the Roman Church did. So more information here on Sammael. He is the light bringer. Now obviously Lucifer, the actual Latin meaning of that word is the light bearer. He is going to be the light bringer because he is going to be ignited as a sun with Jupiter. However, that only happens when he converges with Alcyone, and that's where you have that androgynous look of the Statue of Liberty, because Alcyone, Lilith, is the creator and mother goddess of this underworld, Earth. So that's an important update. So this just goes to show that he is an angel in service of the Lord. And obviously when we're speaking about the Lord, we'll say it's the Lord that is outside of this matrix, this game. Definition of Satan: his role is to tempt humans to sin. And you'll also see in the film Devil's Advocate, the Satan archetype played by Al Pacino, called John Milton, that was his character's name. He manipulated people to sin, and he kept emphasizing that he didn't actually force their hand, but he provided the conditions for people to, in a sense, dig their own grave and bring themselves down. It's important to note there that the presence of Satan here has been allotted by a higher power as part of this testing ground and the trial that we are under here in this dominion, that has been given charge to Satan, and this is actually Satan's kingdom. Yeah, Saturn's kingdom, as has been evidenced here. We are within Saturn's Xbox. So this symbol here, the XO, our channel is evidence that the X is a symbol for Saturn. Now the O, that is a symbol for Alcyone. You'll see here the film Leon the Professional and other coded film. Now Leon here is playing the archetype of Jupiter. Now the rogue cop is playing Saturn. So I'll just show a little clip here. Color code of Saturn, and look at that. Now you can make of that what you will, because Saturn there being placed at the central point of the crucifixion is implying that Jesus is Saturn. However, I've seen codes that show both, and that's because they both get crucified and they both become sons of God, but you can make up your own mind of that. I'm just showing the codes here that are being revealed by those who are part of the mystery schools. And the Bible is written all in mystery speech, virtually. So much of it is open to interpretation, and it has so many layers to it that, yeah, most people, unless they realize the underlying symbology and meaning, they will be having a very difficult time interpreting it, especially if they can't see that a lot of these characters in the Bible are representing celestial bodies and celestial movements, not literal characters. So I'll follow on here. So this is showing that it's celestial celestial crucifixions that are taking place. And you watch, they're both going to ignite. Okay, so that's the code for both Saturn and Jupiter, both igniting as suns. And you'll see towards the end that the girl, because that's a code name for Alcyone, is girl. And you'll see her actually planting a new tree of life at the conclusion of that film. And that's the meaning of that. Now, this film here is an absolute must-see. There is so much revealed within this movie. I actually had to watch it again recently, and I was really blown away. And this really does supply so many codes. And you'll see him here wearing a skeletal clothing because obviously Satan, who represents the angel of death. And you'll see here as part of the plot line, and I'm going to give away some spoilers here if you haven't seen it, the plot revolves around him being told that the world's going to end. And in a nutshell, at the end of the film, a jet engine collides and lands on him and kills him. Now, when you look at West Side Story, which is an allegory film of the celestial battle between Saturn and Jupiter. Saturn being the Sharks gang, the Jets being representing the Jupiter gang. Well, the Jet collides with Saturn, and that's the code there of the celestial collisions that are going to be taking place. Though I do reiterate that it's going to be collisions between Saturn and Jupiter, and also the red dragon star. So it's going to be insane, the amount of celestial activity. This is the convergence of the event horizon. This is a massive celestial convergence of so many bodies, and it's going to create supernovas, and that is going to see to the new heavens and the new earth. It's going to transform the whole galaxy. This is massive. And you got to see this film. So again, he is representing Saturn. And just a note on Donnie Darko, you'll see him carrying an axe. This also applies to this archetype of Saturn, Patrick Bateman. So again, Pater means father, and Bateman, very similar to Batman, isn't it? Yeah, well, there's definitely a correlation there, because American Psycho is showing Patrick Bateman as the archetype of Saturn, and they give little clues here, like listen to the song he's going to play. So the song playing there is Hip to Be Square, and obviously that's a code for the Saturn cube. Another film which is based on celestial bodies is Falling Down. Now, Michael Douglas, and that's interesting because the name Michael this time is attributed to Jupiter. The character's name is Defense, but he is playing a Jupiter archetype in this film, and he is actually having a conflict here with bodies representing Saturn. So check this out.
See, well, you're trespassing on private property.
Okay, so that's saying that Saturn is claiming the ownership of the property, and just so you know, the crucifix is a symbol of Saturn, and people have shown that when you fold the cross up, it becomes a cube.
Trespassing. Loitering too, man. That's right, you're loitering too.
I didn't see any signs.
What you call that?
Okay.
Graffiti?
So they've just pointed to a sign there, and you'll see it's the X. The X is a symbol for Saturn. Now in this scene, Jupiter is actually going to have a run-in with another Saturn archetype, and this Saturn archetype is called Nick. So again, just to update that Saint Nicholas and Santa Claus is attributed to Saturn, and if you watch this scene in full, you will actually see the Santa Claus symbology provided in his little dwelling place here.
I'm with you. We're the same, you and me. We're the same, don't you see? You're not the same. I'm an American. You're a sick asshole. What kind of vigilante are you? I am not a vigilante. I am just trying to get home to my little girl's birthday.
Now what's interesting is that Archangel Michael is seen as, they both do the Lord's work, but Archangel Michael is seen as doing it in a more positive way, whereas Saturn is more the executor of the more extreme harms on the earth, where Saturn is often typified as being really wicked and evil and sick and psycho, because when Saturn is allowed to unleash upon the earth, then some real atrocities occur. And what's interesting is that there is a connotation between the Nazi movement and Saturn, and that's very interesting. If for example, that World War II was God's judgment through Saturn's influence being allowed to play out on people's minds and hearts in all the horrors that occurred there. So continue with this scene.
If everybody will stay out of my way, then nobody will get hurt.
So they wind up having a conflict in this scene, and Jupiter gets the better of him. But what's interesting is that Saturn actually hands him a bazooka. So again, this is the Satan role. He is the manipulator. He supplies the tools for destruction, but ultimately people have to decide whether to use those tools. So he facilitates the means for people harming one another, but doesn't necessarily always have his hand in that. So that's important to note. So another movie that reveals celestial codes, Training Day, and you have Denzel Washington playing the bad cop Saturn, and you have Ethan Hawke playing the good cop Jupiter in this, and you'll see the references to King Kong towards the end scene, Ethan Hawke, and you'll see the darker brown to show that he's also playing Jupiter. But there's a lot more codes. So for example, in me giving away what the archetypes are, just because I've listed very, very few examples, it doesn't mean that I couldn't list so many more. It's just that obviously I'm limited within the scope of time, and I do encourage people to actually seek out and view each of these clips if they have the inclination to do so and have their own seeking confirmed for them. Jupiter and Saturn often do represent police officers and lawyers and positions of authority, because they are the celestial lawyers and judges within this realm. Another film, Bad Boys, in Falling Down, where Michael Douglas as Jupiter says, so I'm the bad guy. The same line is said by Tony Montana in Scarface, reference to being bad. And you'll see there as well that there is a crucifixion depiction there in the promo. So this is just the subtle ways, and sometimes not so subtle ways, that these codes are being given away more openly, that the crucifixion has, or I should say crucifixions, because there were 3 outlined in the Bible, and how they're all relating to celestial convergences. The film Heat, starring again Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, and just to give a heads up that a lot of their movies are giving away celestial codes where these stars are often playing stars. So there's a wide catalogue of their work that I could include, but this is the end scene where Al Pacino, who is playing Jupiter in this scene, the good cop, goes against the bank robber, where Saturn is often depicted as the thief, because he is the thief on the cross, part of the allegory. And what's interesting is that when you look beyond the narrative, sometimes there can be deeper meanings. These celestial bodies, and when you recognize, for example, Jesus and the other disciples as celestial bodies, how they are the fishers of men and they cast a net. So that has to be examined, and you can make of that statement what you will. Okay? But they are gatherers and hunters, ultimately. So there's the Saturn cube, and they're involved in a shootout in this scene where Jupiter takes down Saturn, just as what occurs in the plotline of Point Break as well. And you also see here a promo image from Men in Black, where Tommy Lee Jones is playing the archetype of Jupiter, and Will Smith playing the archetype of Saturn. Tagline for this film reveals is that they are the Galaxy Defenders, and as mentioned previous, they defend the galaxy from the threat of the Red Dragon destroyer star. So if they weren't there to take it down, there would be mass destruction that would occur in the galaxy. So in that sense, they do have their role to play in life and on this level of existence, where there are many levels of existence. I hope that we can all evolve as quickly as possible and leave this level, because this is a very, very harsh realm, and I will call it a prison planet, where if you do the wordplay on that, the word net is in there, and ET plan. So there is an extraterrestrial plan in all the beings that are planted here, and none of us that are here by accident. Playing the Saturn archetype is Will Smith, and that's a coded word all in itself because it's Will Smite. Smith is the smiter. Now, this is a song here from the 80s, and it's by the band called Cutting Crew, which is a very interesting name considering that Jupiter and Saturn will do a lot of harm on the Earth in terms of their electromagnetic effects on the Earth once they converge closer to Alcyone. This is titled I Just Died in Your Arms, and what this music video is going to show, and you'll see the figure in the foreground is Saturn with the dyed hair. And what's interesting is that Saturn is often shown as bearing the male and female characteristics. You're going to see Saturn pursuing Jupiter here because, again, they ignite one another ultimately through this convergence. There he's pursuing him. And what you're also going to see is that when he sings, you'll actually see the spotlight focused on him to indicate that he's going to become a sun and be ignited. It's one of those subtle ways that the producers reveal. So yeah, every time they do close-ups on his face, he looks like he's got a solar halo. Now the series, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, she is a major archetype of Alcyone. And you'll see here as well, it's an androgynous look, she's in black, and she's also an executor of wrath upon evils. What's interesting is that Michael Kavanagh, ex-CIA high-level Freemason, has stated Mum is pissed, and I have a very, very strong suspicion that he is referring to Alcyone, who is the creator of this matrix, in turn with Jupiter and Saturn. This is the Genesis bodies that are going to meet again after separation for the end of the age. So yeah, I highly recommend that people review that series if they want to learn about Lilith Alcyone. And it's worth mentioning also that Alcyone is also referred to as Halcyone. So the music artist Halsey is directly playing an archetype of Alcyone, as is Rihanna, as is Dua Lipa, Annie Lennox. Basically all those artists that I previously mentioned were symbolizing Sirius, were actually representatives of Alcyone, so I apologize for that. But what caught me off guard is that the Pleiades stars actually have the same color codes as the Sirius star, and that is because they are all related. And Lilith and Sammael are cut from a similar clay in terms of their roles. However, Alcyone does allegorically murder Saturn and ignite him into a sun, and basically transforms this whole cube matrix. It's going to be gone. The Satan influence, the adversarial influence, along with the red dragon influence that works in conjunction with him, will not be here for that period of 1,000 years if the Bible narrative is correct. I can't prove for or against. I'm just showing the codes and the evidence associated with them, which does reveal the celestial story of what is to occur within this generation. One of the Top Gun codes, and I noticed here that Maverick is attributed with the number 9, and I checked the Chaldean numerology calculator, and the code for Jupiter adds up to 9. The producers did the switcheroos with the code, and they put his helmet with the color code of Saturn. And this is what they do, and this is why it can be an absolute nightmare decoding, because there is so much margin for error when you attempt to provide and supply the details. And I have been trying to do details here. I could have been vague and gotten an extreme high degree of accuracy. However, I have still been very, very accurate with these codes, even in supplying the details of what's going to occur and exactly what bodies are going to be involved here. And the giveaway as well that Iceman is playing Saturn is you see the black hand of Saturn on his patch there, with the thunderbolt symbology also. And just going to go back to Scarface, and I'm glad I can admit this as Scarface is attributed to Jupiter. And Jupiter does have a lot of similarities with Saturn in terms of the codes and their roles. And interesting, his full name is Antonio Montana. So Antonio, first letter's A, last letter O. That's Alpha Omega. Same with Apollo in Apollo Creed. It's Apollo, Alpha, last letter O, Omega. And that's not an accident, because they are part of the Alpha Omega bodies. Both present at Genesis and will be present for the Omega end age phase. Let's run this. Now, that line, the best, that's also applying to Daniel LaRusso, where his girlfriend in that film, Ali, codename Alcyone, says, "Daniel, you're the best." So I just wanted to highlight that. Now you're going to see the body of Saturn coming up behind him, just like in the other codes we showed. Saturn is pursuing or behind Jupiter, being pulled. And you'll see here, after Tony is ignited, the world is his, because he is the prime sun. And you'll see the Saturn body is stepping down. He's no longer the main influence here. Going now to the Karate Kid, you'll see the same thing. Now, the reason he has a black sun on his headband is because this is still an underworld. It's a black sun, and initially I thought that Daniel was Saturn, but when you see Johnny, which is a code name more often than not for Saturn, you'll see Johnny dressed as a skeleton in the costume scene, and you also see him fighting for Cobra Kai, and Sammael and Saturn are symbolized by the snake, and Sammael is known as the poison of God. The video of God is a woman. You'll see the Alcyone archetype saying that she'll destroy anyone who attempts to poison her sisters. And she's referring to Sammael, Saturn. So she is going to be responsible with Jupiter in taking down Saturn and igniting him, because she's a warrior too. Lilith, Alcyone, is a warrior and is a man-eater. Okay, as told by that Hall & Oates song, because man is a code for the celestial bodies. And there's going to be several portals that are going to be opened up through this convergence of the event horizon. It's not going to be just one portal. There's going to be several portals, and depending on our frequency, what door that we go through. Very, very important that that is said, because a lot of times these celestial bodies will represent portals, and where we go ultimately is up to us. I'm glad that I could make amends and update that information, even though Sirius still is a primary part of this convergence. I want absolute clarity and absolute accurate information with Loudest help. That there is nothing hidden that won't be brought to light during the end times. I really do wish everyone has the hand of grace upon them and answers to conscience and good graces. Ultimately, the truth will prevail, and good spirit will prevail. Hopefully, this has been fruitful for you guys in digesting. I do encourage people to validate and do their own research and come to their own conclusions. The fact that we get overall positive feedback is really fantastic, considering a lot of this information is highly unsettling to people and controversial, where not all is as it seems, and that everything in this duality field has to be seen with a critical eye and taken with a critical eye. And I've got no problem if you take this information with a critical eye as well. In fact, I encourage it. I want people to go out there and validate and seek for themselves. If you knock, the door will be open to you. And boy, have I been knocking. So hopefully this has been enlightening for us all.